Now, many of you know what an advocate, what a supporter and, well, what a fan of electric cars I am. My involvement with Formula E over the last 5 seasons has just opened my eyes to an amazing set of technologies that I wasn't really very aware of beforehand. But now, I mean, I'm all over it. I love the stuff. I think we've got incredible potential for the future of electric transportation, and it is happening right now. And very recently, off the back of all that, I was given the opportunity to not just test any old electric vehicle. I mean, I've driven electric cars, skateboards, vans. This time, I was given an electric motorcycle. Now that's cool. I love motorbikes, but the experience didn't get off to the very best of starts. So, for the last few days I've had an electric motorbike from Artisan Electric Scooters. Haven't had a lot of chance to get out on it because I've been doing this long commute to the Wheeler Dealers set each week, but I'm pleased to say I've now had a chance to get out on it. So I've popped over to Guildford on the bike. This is it. It certainly looks different and stands out in a lineup of motorbikes, and I like that. Unfortunately, Artisan have given me the version of this bike. It's the EVO3, which has the smaller of its 2 battery options, and I'm told that this one will give you a range of around about 40 miles of real-world usage, which is fine for most people because, you know, 40 miles on this little kind of small scooter-like motorbike is probably absolutely fine and more than most people would do in a day. But of course I've pushed it a bit too far, and I've come over from my house over to Guildford. I'm not sure how many miles it is, but of course I had it in the highest power mode. I had the throttle wide open for the whole thing, and I've now got here with 41% of the battery left, having started at 100%, and it doesn't take a genius to work out that it's gone way over halfway to do half of my journey. So now I've got the challenge of getting home. Now that was a nerve-wracking journey. The battery says 0 on the bike, and it said 0 for probably the last 2 miles of the journey. I can tell you that that is enough to make the journey a tense one. But I've got to say, one of the things about this bike, and this is not a good thing, I have to say, Artisan, the battery meter, the energy meter on the dashboard on this bike varies enormously as you're going along. At times on my journey home, the battery was going from 1 or 2%, and this is with still a fair few miles to go, 1 or 2%, and then 30 seconds later it's showing 25%. And it seems to be almost like those range meters you get in the car that change depending how you're using the throttle. Give it a load of throttle, the predicted range will go down. Well, that's what the battery meter, the energy meter on this thing seems to be doing. It seems to be giving a predicted energy level or almost a predicted range, but in terms of an energy level display. That's not what I need. I need to know how much energy is in the battery. I'll then work out how to use that energy to get as far as I need to go. I don't need to have my energy levels fluctuating massively between empty and a quarter full, because I don't really have any idea how much energy is actually in the battery. Anyway, we made it home, and there is a lot of positive stuff about this bike, which I'm going to tell you in a little while. But that was a nervous moment. One of the most nervous times I've had in terms of range anxiety in any electric vehicle, whether it's my skateboard or electric cars, and now electric motorbikes. That was as tense as it's been. that wasn't perhaps the best introduction and the best first experience of this bike. It wasn't the only experience, of course, and I'm going to go on to talk about lots of great things about this bike, but that idea of range anxiety that lots of people have over them, have hanging over them, the idea that they will be, you know, in this situation that they can't get out of because there isn't going to be a petrol station just 2 minutes down the road from wherever they might need one. The idea of having to stretch your energy to get you to where you need to be, to the next available charge point, is a real thing. And the way that this bike works doesn't really help that. That display, I mean, look, it's a nice clear LED display. It's very functional in most senses. However, the idea of using your battery meter as more of a fluctuating range meter is just definitely not the way to go. By all means have that, but let's have a full-on battery energy meter as well at the same time. And you know, it may be that it's just a software change, or it may be that it's a sensor upgrade that needs to happen. It's not the end of the world. Absolutely not the end of the world. And I'm sure that if you use the bike for continued periods, you would probably get used to how that works and have a better feel for how much energy you've actually got when the battery meter is showing whatever it's showing. The other thing you'll notice about this display here is that it's got the speedo, the two great big digital numbers there, in miles per hour. So I was riding down the A3 between Guildford and here, and it was showing at times 75 miles an hour. Now, it was not doing 75 miles an hour. So I think what I can get from what I can gather has happened is the speedo is actually reading kilometers an hour, even though it says miles per hour on the display. So again, it's a tiny little niggle that's not perfect, but again, it's one of those things you could very quickly get used to, and actually a simple software upgrade could quite easily sort that out, I have no doubt. Other than that, there is loads of positive stuff about this bike. I think it looks great. It's got a real unique appearance to it, which I really like. I feel the same way about electric cars, that they should look a little bit different, and the bike is exactly the same. It stands out, and I think it should do exactly that. It comes in this brilliant green colour, or it comes in a bright, vibrant red colour as well. Both of those options really pop it out and make it stand out on the street. So that I really like. And on a technical level as well, it has some interesting features. It has a fully adjustable rear suspension, coilover shock on the back there that has an adjustable platform, so you can make adjustments to the spring rate, stiffness. It has a 3000 watt electric motor, really good electric motor, and just look where it's positioned, all the way down as low as possible and over the center of the bike, giving it a really great center of gravity, really nice balance. The motor is a really effective piece of kit as well. It's a very powerful and instantaneous motor when you need to get that power delivery from it. Drilled brake discs with twin pot calipers front and rear means that it stops very effectively as well. So from a safety perspective, it's great. I like the fact that the frame is exposed as well, again just adding to that slightly different, slightly unique appearance. There's space on the back for a certain amount of luggage. Yes, not a huge amount, but look, it's a motorbike, and a small motorbike at that. It doesn't stand very big. It's not a dominant motorbike. This is more of a scooter style bike, if you like. You might equate it to the Honda Navi bike, if anyone's familiar with those, petrol powered version, which again is very small, like a commuter bike. But for that purpose, this thing is actually very useful. The seat again comes with leather options in the green or red to match the frame, and again that just adds to that appearance, which I like. It's got a fake petrol cap. Not sure about that. I mean, why are we going with a fake petrol cap when, you know, where you should be embracing the fact that this thing's electric? The controls are all very easy to use. It's a twist and go bike as well, so really simple. It's responsive in that, you know, the power is instantaneous. You get a great launch from the line with this thing. However, having said that, there's a tiny little delay between you activating the throttle and the power coming in, and that's not a problem for when you're launching from the traffic lights, for example. When it is a problem though, and motorbikers will know this, when you're trying to do a very slow, tight maneuver, when you're trying to go around a very tight turning circle, and with a petrol-powered, more conventional motorcycle, you'd hold your revs on, wouldn't you, and you'd sort of balance it on the clutch to bring the power in and out, to enable you to keep your balance going through that tight turning circle. You can't do that with this bike. First of all, of course, you've got no clutch to do that, but you can't even do it on the twist and go throttle handle because of that delay. You twist it, nothing happens, and your instinct is to twist it a bit more because nothing's happened, and then all of a sudden you get a load of throttle come in. So again, it's probably something you need to get used to, but for me, counterintuitive and such a simple thing, and it shouldn't be that hard to fix in my view. And actually would make quite a big difference to the kind of feeling you get, the experience you get of riding this thing, that it's smooth, that it's easy to manage in all sorts of circumstances. So that's one little thing that I think could easily be tweaked, could easily be improved, and would make a massive difference to the way this thing operates. There are 3 power mode settings on the handlebar. You can just see the dial there. Of course, it's left in number 3 because that's the only one I had it in. But what happens there is that it's actually a sort of speed limiter. So what that does is, and the way this bike was set up, was it actually had the same power delivery but only up to a maximum speed. It's there because if you need to extend your range, of course, you can limit it to 30 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour, or whatever it is you want through those 3 settings, and it will of course extend your range accordingly. So quite useful. I'm not sure how many people would actually use it, but in that moment when I was desperately trying to save energy to get myself home, I did have to crank it down to the lowest level. I was the slowest thing on the road, but it did manage to extend the range to get me home. The idea about this thing is that it's quick and easy. It's a twist and go, as I said, so the idea is you can just hop on it and go without any fuss, without any preparation, without having to, you know, get it warmed up. It's literally there for when you need to buzz off down to the shops or whiz to the station on your way to work. You know, and for those reasons and for those purposes, this is a great bike. It has more adjustment down at the foot pegs as well. Not again something that most people would use on a regular basis, but it's there as an option for you. There's that motor again looking nice in the side. And if you step back and look at the whole thing, I really like the appearance of this bike. It looks sporty, it looks fast, yet it looks a little bit different. So let's give you some stats on this. 3 kilowatt motor. 30 amp hour battery in that particular model. The specs will say it does 90 kilometers on a charge, but look, don't hold this against Artisan. It won't do that. It may do if you're running around in the lowest power mode, but look, every single electric vehicle manufacturer, in fact every single vehicle manufacturer, will inflate the stats relating to their vehicle and what miles per gallon it will do if it's a petrol or a diesel, what range it will do if it's electric. So of course they're inflated. The tests are done in unrealistic conditions, not out on in the real world. My test shows you that at average, you know, usage, real world usage, you'll get much less than that. Somewhere around the 30 miles on a full charge, but generally that's having a bit of fun with it. I was going very slowly on the way home from Guildford that day, but on the way there I was flat out all the way and having a bit of fun with it. It handles reasonably well, this thing. Because it's such a small bike, you can use this thing on a provisional license as well. Your insurance is cheap. It has a lot of benefits to it as well. You can recharge it using just a normal standard 3-pin plug in your house. It will take around 6 hours, so overnight, which is fine again for most people. But the advantage is you don't need to have any special charging system installed at home. It will just work anyway. So then the question comes, well, how much is it? Well, a basic bike will cost you around about £3,300, but then when you've got a couple of added options on that, it'll bring it out at around about £3,400, £3,500. So would I have one? And I thought about this long and hard because, yes, I love motorbikes, but this is not for somebody who's a motorbike lover. This is for somebody who needs a commuter to get, you know, 10 miles up the road to the station, 5 miles up the road there and back. For someone who wants to save a fortune in parking costs, because maybe you can park it for free at your local station, whereas otherwise maybe it costs you 5, 7, 8 quid a day. And I know lots of people that have to do that. My wife does that every single day, pays 8 quid a day in parking at the station. Well, if we had one of these, we wouldn't do that, and that would save us a hell of a lot of money. And actually, when I worked that out, it wouldn't take that long to be able to use one of these every day for Claire, my wife, to actually almost recoup its costs in parking and fuel costs, even once you've added in your electricity to charge the thing up. So there are definite advantages to this. So the answer to the question, would I have one? I'm starting to think that maybe I would. Yes, it could be improved on. Yes, we could do better with electric bikes, and it will happen very, very quickly, I have no doubt. But as a first instance, as a first experience for me, I reckon I could overcome the issues that I've perceived it to have, and I reckon I could get quite a lot of use out of it. So Artisan, I might be back.